Hello and welcome to Cargo Masterminds presented by cargo.one. This is our weekly episode where we bring leaders from global air cargo companies for a one-to-one conversation. My name is Reggie John and you are watching Cargo Masterminds presented by cargo.one. The COVID pandemic opened up huge opportunities for cargo airlines. The extraordinary demand for air freight and elevated freight rates on account of the limited belly capacity in long-haul wide-body passenger flights is giving rise to the launch of quite a few new cargo airlines. There is a rush to get freighters of production and of converted types. But the current demand outstrips supply, and cargo operators and airlines are pulling out parked wide-body passenger airplanes and deploying them as light freighters or cargo-only passenger flights on some of the most lucrative international routes. The latest one is AlisCargo Airlines, an Italian cargo airline based in Milan Malpensa Airport in Italy. The airline has leased two Boeing 777-200ER aircraft from Boeing Capital Corporation. These aircraft joined AlisCargo fleet after having their seats removed from the passenger cabins to accommodate more volume of cargo in the passenger cabins besides loading denser cargo in the lower deck. AlisCargo operated its first revenue flight in August this year, connecting Milan Malpensa with Jinan in northeastern China. My guest today is Ulrich Ogiermann, the Chief Commercial Officer of AlisCargo Airlines. Ulrich, more popularly known as Uli in the air cargo industry circles, joined the Italian business family, the Liali Group, late last year to launch AlisCargo Airlines after having spent 30 years in the air freight industry. Uli was the president and CEO of all cargo airline Cargolex. He was the chief cargo officer of Qatar Airways that went on to become the world's largest cargo airline under his leadership. Before joining AlisCargo, Uli was with the Volga Dnieper Group and helped the Russian all-cargo carrier to launch Cargo Logic Germany. Ulrich Ogiermann joins me in this episode of Cargo Masterminds to discuss what is new at AlisCargo Airlines since its commercial launch in August, the current tailwinds of all cargo airlines, and what is the short to medium term outlook for air freight industry, even as the world makes slow but steady recovery from the pandemic. Uli, welcome to Cargo Masterminds, and thanks for joining us in this conversation.
Thanks, Reggie. Thanks very much, and thanks for the great introduction. It reminds me of how old you get really after all these years and all these episodes in the industry. But it's great to be here. Thanks very much.
Uli, bring us up to speed with what is happening with AlisCargo since you launched your first revenue flight on August 18th.
Yeah, I mean, that's the latest project that I'm involved. I mean, it's great fun to be there because it's a startup company, a real startup company with a completely unique business concept. I mean, we just had to make use of so-called P2Fs, passenger to freighter, semi-converted aircraft, which was not the plan. I mean, we initially had planned to launch our airline certainly with pure freighters. But then we were simply overwhelmed with the development and the speed of the whole pandemic development, and where there were ample aircraft around at the very beginning when we started. By the moment we were able to pull the trigger and get everything going, the aircraft had disappeared and were flying in all directions all over the globe. And since then, it is getting extremely difficult, as you all know, to get hands on freighter capacity. So we started with these P2Fs, complete unique products. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, will you ever be able to, operate such a product in the current environment, I would have probably said no, coming from an all cargo and a mixed operating background. But then all of a sudden, it was possible, and it works quite well, I must say.
Uli, both your aircraft deployed now because you had taken two B 777-200ER. Both of them have their seats removed from the passenger cabins. Are both of them deployed on commercial routes?
Yes, both are fully operating. I mean, we have actually put all the frequencies now into Hong Kong because this gives us some operational synergies to operate at the same place. So that's for us the best option to do. We try to be as least complex as possible, both from a commercial point of view, but clearly also from an operational point of view to save cost. we could, as everybody who operates freighter-related capacity at the moment, we could basically put everything into the market that we have. So we asked on a daily basis for a lot of additional capacity to and from Hong Kong, which unfortunately we cannot cater for. But all the aircraft are operating and both are operating full blast to Hong Kong.
So let me understand. So both your aircraft are operating from Italy, Milan to Hong Kong.
Correct. 6 frequencies a week.
Are you not operating to any of the Chinese destinations?
At the moment, not. Like I said, we have decided to basically only cater for the market in Hong Kong because it gives us the possibility to combine 2 aircraft in the same destination, and it gives us both a commercial advantage. Our customer have an advantage because we simply can optimize the cost base as well.
So what has happened with your partnership that you announced in August with the China Eastern Airlines, and what are the details of that partnership right now?
We're very happy and very proud to operate together with China Eastern. This whole commercial lineup carries on. We have now shifted the support from China Eastern to Hong Kong. They have customers as well there, so we're helping China Eastern, hopefully in a satisfactory way, and it seems to be satisfactory. So we're going from Hong Kong for China Eastern into Malpensa and back.
And what are the other routes that you have planned to operate in the near future? Are you looking at anything else? Because I remember in my previous interview with you, you didn't make mention about the North American market eventually, and before that, maybe flying into also the other parts of Europe.
Yeah, I mean that's a complex question because in order to operate with a larger footprint, you need the coverage of aircraft, which at the moment we don't have. We're working on that. We are in discussions with various potential suppliers of capacity, and then we will step by step expand our footprint. We're also looking into Chinese destinations, but now for the time being, until the end of January, we will just remain in Hong Kong. Thereafter, it remains to be seen. I mean, we're working also on the respective permits you need to have for the US market. That's all work in progress. Takes a bit of time, unfortunately, but that's how it is. And we have to go all the regulatory steps that are necessary. And then we will step by step expand our footprint.
Uli, what is the type of cargo flying in your aircraft?
Well, we are not very much exposed to this. I mean, we know that it's a lot of e-commerce related goods. It's partially PPE equipment as well, but we are basically chartering out the aircraft to our customers. So whatever they are loading on the aircraft, it's not that we will get in a very close contact with the final customers because we supply the capacity and the customers use the capacity. We know it's e-commerce. We see that from the density and the volume ratios that are put on board. And for this, the aircraft performs quite well because especially with the main deck loose loading, even though it's not very efficient from a manpower point of view, we see that it's fully utilized, and with the density volume mix you need for the e-commerce business, it actually works quite well.
And Uli, are you selling your capacity directly? Is that a long-term contract signed with your customers, freight forwarders? Is that the trend right now?
We are not selling for the moment to the freight forwarders, but we're selling to large intermediate companies that are getting the capacity from us. I mean, one of them being China Eastern Shanghai Express. They have chartered the aircraft from us, and there's another large customer who has also chartered the aircraft from us. And then they are backing this up with their respective customers behind that. But we are not involved directly in the sales process. We are not going onto the market, for the little bits and pieces. It's partially also related to the complexity of the whole sales process. I mean, the easier we can do this, the better it is for us, and we think the better it is for our customers. Because if we would do the kind of retail sales, it would simply be too much for us in terms of our resources. So we try to be as little complex as possible.
Uli, as far as I understand, with the partnership with China Eastern, you have an agreement for them to outbound cargo from China or from Hong Kong into Italy, and from Italy, the outbound cargo from Italy to Asian countries. Is that something that you are responsible for?
Well, in that case, what we would do is we supply the aircraft to the respective customers who are loading the aircraft from Hong Kong into Malpensa. They take care of all the on-forwarding that is necessary. Basically, we are partially involved in filling up the aircraft from Malpensa without going too much into detail here. Partially, it's a responsibility of the customers, and partially we are marketing part of the space as well. And for this, we have nominated a GSA who is doing this for us, because we don't want to supply our own sales staff everywhere. It just would be too complex for a rather small operation such as this. That's one of the negative parts of being a startup airline, because simply you have to play very carefully with the resources that you have.
Who is your GSA?
We have appointed ECS for this job, who are known to the market, especially in Italy. They're quite strong. I've known them from the past, also in other environments, and we found them to be reliable and performing to the standards that we need.
Okay, now my important question, and the next question is about what are your plans for adding more freighters into your fleet, because everyone wants a freighter today.
Yeah, the first request would be, whoever sees this and has freighters available, please let us know, because we're interested in talking to you guys. I know that there is a huge hype around freighter aircraft. I mean, there's freighter capacity operating at the moment, which normally would be in the desert since a long time, and everything is moving that can move at the moment. We foresee this still to remain for the next couple of months at least, if not longer. So I think that next year, 2022, we'll still see a huge favoritism towards freighter capacity. We are trying to get our hands on freighters now. We're in discussions with people that are providing us potentially with conversions, potentially with still passenger aircraft that we would then convert into freighters. And there's various routes that we are investigating at the moment. I'm not at the point that I can tell you really about the details that we're discussing too, but we're talking to probably 3 potential sources of conversions, and we're looking at freighters that are occasionally offered to us to look at the ratio of revenue that we can obtain versus the pricing. So that's something that we're close investigating. We had offers, but simply some people are just trying their luck, and they come up with very unrealistic offers to the potential clients, and they're trying their luck. So one has to be very careful with the commitments that you take over, because you have to be aware that the market one day can also change. It's not just a one-way street. I mean, to be honest, I would have loved to have this kind of environment in a lot of the operating phases that I was in with other carriers, because it was very often a market that was dominated by the clients themselves, and they were pushing down the margins for us as the operator tremendously, because there was so much competition. And at the moment, I think it's a blessing to those cargo airlines that have a lot of freighter capacity available, or freight capacity as such. We are not in that lucky spot at the moment, but we're trying to work our way into that market.
So only at the current market conditions and elevated freight rates, and the demand's really up, and that's going to be the condition for at least in the foreseeable future. How many aircraft would you like to have maybe end of 2022? And do you have access to the desired number that you like to have?
I mean, we have a clear path in terms of what we think would be the optimal growth path for the company. That's more like a 5-year perspective that we're looking at. And you need a certain operating size in order to get synergies in the fleet and have some cost benefits in your fleet. So I think we're looking at a much larger type of fleet by the end of 5 years. How this will play out then by the end of every year remains to be seen, because we could have a wish, but it really depends on what is available in the market. I think we should be able to at least double our fleet by the end of 2022, so then operate with 4 aircraft by the end of next year.
And you're looking at all types of aircraft, and are you also looking at narrow-body freighters?
No, we're not looking at narrow-body freighters, but we're looking at any type of aircraft where there's a chance to initially operate them still as P2Fs, and then with the chance to convert them. But the most important point is that you get slots in the conversion environment, which is changing also. It's a very fluid environment these days. It's not like it was a very established pipeline. I mean, now you have providers that are coming onto the market that were not there a year ago. So the markets are really changing extremely fast, and one has to make sure that we're all staying on top of those developments, because it's really such a fluid market environment from a supplier point of view, but also from the demand point of view. So it's quite exciting, and we see some opportunities for us there.
There are several companies that have popped up in the last 1 year offering freighter conversions, established conversion companies putting up additional assembly lines to meet the extraordinary demand. So what are you reading from what is going on right now?
I think the companies that have chosen to go down a certain route, there were a couple of examples in the last weeks. They have all their own operating environment. They have their own business model. And I think you cannot copy this. To be in a European market and in a quite strong cargo market such as Italy, that offers you certain opportunities on a global scale. But you cannot compare this to a situation where maybe you're operating, let's say, in an African market or in the US market, because you have different players, you have different economic environments you have to take care of. If you're operating in the US, you're dealing with different market dynamics in terms of the stage length you can operate, in terms of the potential clients you have. And you cannot compare this and shift this over to European, Asian routing proposition, for instance. So I can just talk for us, and I don't have enough insight into what other players are looking at. One can just try to determine what the drivers of their decisions might be as far as it is known, but it's always a complete different business model that people are looking at.
Capacity remains very constrained, and it is going to be even more so as we approach the peak season. In fact, the peak season is already there, given the current mess that we see in the container shipping side. Is air cargo, from your own experience, having worked with some of the biggest cargo airlines, is air cargo equipped to deal with the increasing supply-demand gap? And what will be its impact on the freight rates going forward?
I think what we're seeing at the moment is really unprecedented. I mean, we see, I wouldn't say a collapse of supply chains, but supply chains are under tremendous stress, because I think from a demand point of view, people have substantial available income that now tries to come onto the market. Supply chains have been disrupted during the peak of the pandemic, now finding it difficult to reboot the systems again, because you have manpower issues, you have still the occasional flare-ups of corona pandemic-related events in certain parts of the board supply chains. I mean, in Asia at the moment, it is very complicated to go through various airports, simply due to the shortage of manpower. And that's something that we never experienced before to that magnitude. Everything that can operate operates, be it on the air freight side, be it on the shipping side. Everything's booked out, everything is running above capacity, fully being booked. And the infrastructure gaps are now starting to surface. I can just recall some of those events when we had the peak of the peak, maybe let's say the end of November in the normal years, or the beginning of December, in the first 2 weeks of December, eventually, that the hubs were overflowing. But this now seems to become an ongoing issue over many months, and I don't see a relaxation of this trend for the coming weeks. I think even the normal slowdown during Chinese New Year will not be as steep as we expected it usually to be. This year, I think, will be, well, the next time it will be less of a decline, simply because you will have the overflow from the previous period to be compensated, and more to come thereafter.
When you read reports in the media, like I said earlier today, about global supply chain, and today there are many headline news across all mainstream media. Even air freight operators aren't providing the shippers much relief from the global supply chain hardship. Dubai just announced that it will stop accepting most imports at the Emirates main airport at Dubai, as well as DWs, to clear off backlog. It is the same case with many airports in the US. How do you read the current challenges, and from what you have experienced working in Europe as well as in the Middle East, what are your recommendations? How can air freight industry deal with the current disruptions and the challenges?
I think what always surfaces is that you can be as efficient as you like with your air transportation, the airport part, where you involve the aircraft. Even if this would be, let's say, 100% flawless, which it isn't, because we know we have AOGs, we have situations that you cannot fully utilize your space according to the booking situation. So there will be flaws, but the problem always arises when you hit the ground, basically, because the biggest congestion shows in the warehouses, because it's not completely plannable. Due to the delays of carriers, you will have not the optimal size of shifts in the warehouses, for instance. So then it immediately starts. The moment that the airlines are running late or not sticking to schedule, you will not have sufficient or the adequate manpower on the ground. And then the clock starts to tick, because then you will have a backlog starting, and due to the flights being full the whole time, you will never be able to cope with the backlog that is building up. So the problems are in this interfacing with the ground operations, and those effects that are happening in all the airports basically are multiplying in the operation. So at the end of the day, everything is disrupted and everything is running beside schedule. And that's an ongoing problem in the way that the air freight product is structured in these days.
Only when you read reports today that the cargo revenue for a lot of the airlines actually reach up to almost 30%, in some cases even to 60%. Having been part of many of those bigger airlines, all cargo airlines, and a competition carrier, what are some of the thoughts that come into your mind?
I mean, it's like I said before, I've never had the luxury, unfortunately, of working in that environment that, there's such a preference for the air freight product. I was normally at the other end of the stick, and we were fighting to fill the aircraft, to have decent yields. And then now it's the other way around. I mean, the operators that are having substantial air freight capacity are able to achieve profit levels that were unheard of and unthinkable the years before. In a way, I'm a little bit jealous that I cannot be part of that. At the same time, it's also very satisfying to be part of a small startup carrier where we can, try to fight our way into the market and be part of that whole story. I mean, we obviously can never compare us to the large players that are around and that have a great time at the moment. But the markets will also change. And I think the most important is that you are realistic in your expectations, that you're realistic with what is possible, and you don't see this as a new normal. If you look at the next 10 years, there will be a very strong equilibration process. It's not going to take 10 years, but probably in 2 years, we will see a new normal coming up. It will not be the one that it was pre-pandemic, but it will be something that is completely different from the current situation.
You think cargo will have a place in the high table when it comes to in the future? Do airlines give that preference to air cargo once things get back to normal?
I think that airlines have overall learned the lesson that cargo can contribute very strongly to the profitability of the airline, that cargo is necessary to even stabilize the combination carriers product, because you can't have long haul operations without the revenues generated by the bellies of the long haul aircraft. And I think that comes much more to the forefront. And I think in the future, the cargo product in itself will be strengthened in the combination carriers. And I think the all cargo airlines will see the huge benefits that an all cargo product has. So it's very good for those people that are involved in the cargo transportation product overall. And I think it's also going to be a good thing for, let's say, future career opportunities in the air cargo business. Air cargo was always becoming a little bit of a, side product, especially within the mixed combination carriers portfolio. But now we can see that it offers career chances. If you're entrepreneurial, if you're quick in your decision making, you can make a good living in this industry. And I think that will be a big benefit going forward, that people see that there is a strong value proposition within the logistics supply chain and the role that air freight is playing in this.
Olive, we're still, the return of the wide body long haul passenger flights are really, really slow and steady. But we also seen that the more advanced narrow body planes are in the making. They are coming into operations. People or airlines are looking at to deploy those most advanced narrow body planes, giving very little cargo capacity on such planes which can probably travel for 8 hours, intercontinental travel. Going forward, do you think there will be a lot more reliance on freighter main deck capacity?
I think freighter main deck capacity will be, let's say, a factor in the all cargo operation. I don't think that there's a way back to, let's say, combination of main deck and passenger. Like you had the famous combis that some, especially one European carrier was very strong in operating, or two large ones. I don't think it's going to go back to this time again. I think there will be a specialization, either freighter or in either passenger product going forward. Otherwise, I don't think the economics is going to work out in the long run. At the moment, it would work out, but like I said, it's not the normal situation that we're in. We have to look at what will be sustainable in 2 years from now, and by then, I don't think that a combination product would be sustainable.
Only my last question, and it is about commercial viability, economic viability of operating these freighters on intercontinental routes. These are cargo-only passenger flights. You are a chief commercial officer, and you have strong eyes and observation on the economic viability of it. In the current circumstances, are you happy with the way that these aircraft you are able to put into use?
At the moment, I'm happy about the way, and it's actually much more efficient than I ever thought it would be possible. But we have to be realistic. It's just possible to operate this type of product in a market where simply the supply-demand ratio is very much in the favor of the operator. But it is not as bad as you might think, because with the change of the mix of cargo, you have the benefit that the e-commerce requires a lot of volume, and e-commerce shipments are dominating the current environment. The growth comes from that segment. It's not the general air cargo that will provide the growth going forward, but it's going to be e-commerce. So at the moment, I'm quite happy with the way the aircraft are performing, better than I thought, to be honest, better than I would ever held it possible. Overall, it will require a change. We will not be able to survive with that type of product going forward.
Uli, as always, it was such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm looking forward to more such conversations in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reggie. It was great to be with you, and yeah, looking forward to do this again. Things will change again, and there will be lots happening. All the best to you.
That was Ulrich Ogiermann, the Chief Commercial Officer of AlisCargo Airlines. I hope you enjoyed watching this interview. If you like what we do, please do share this video among your networks. Also, if you are not a subscriber of our YouTube channel, please do subscribe now and click the bell icon so that you do not miss any of our new videos. Join me next Monday as I bring a new guest for a one-to-one conversation here in Cargo Masterminds, presented by cargo.one. Until next Monday, take care and have some fun. Thank you.